Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being filmed on 6/29/25. Another Q&A, folks. You'll see this post-conference. I know there was a ton of them before that, but you're going to see these regularly every now and again. There's not going to be a big cluster of them like you saw before. So, I thought there was a lot of questions there. So, before we go into any of the Q&A, I now open the circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda, so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent and mischievous type beings to be swept away, so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say so be it.
And so be it. Now, with this Q&A, I will get this rocking here with this affirmation and blessing. To truth, when one reports it, even in humor, evil notices, but evil also loses when humor spats in its face. Channeling of comedian and actress Joan Rivers. So, first question.
How much of the puppet show is truly the puppet show? And in parentheses, they put i.e. the strike on Iran.
All right, this was my grandfather Bob Sainovich that actually answered this, because I saw this as total puppet show. So this is what he said. Most of what you see and hear are only echoes of the truth. Joanna is right. Her saying that the ideology of the Middle East being exposed needs to happen is right. Now, is there a playette going on? Could they have done this silently and covertly? Yes, they could have. But a public spectacle is needed to fulfill part of the 100 years disclosure agreement contract. Whereas the world must be unified before any ETs will be seen. Period. Show play at WWE puppet show or not. It matters not. Excuse me. Did they crumble that mountain with an earthquake and a bomb? Yes, they did. But as you said, sound waves can also be used. The lower levels / lower decks, so to speak, do not know of the puppet show. Remember this, Chris, please. And this was from my grandfather, Bob Sainovich. P.S. Also, did a covert op take place to place the earthquake generating equipment? Yes, it did. And he was making a comment on that.
So this is really just really quick to add to this. Why was this being done publicly like it is? There are times when a storyline has been played out, and it's just what we do, where we do an opening affirmation and blessing. We talk about something, we close it, tie it in a bow. It allows your psyche now to move forward in a kind of a way. So sometimes, yet, even though some of these things were caused by playettes and problems and agreements, and you're going to play this bad guy and you're going to do this bad guy, the people in general, the surface people, were involved in all this. There's been plenty of people who have lost their lives, plenty of people. And so the context of that whole entire conversation for the psyche of the people must have a closing. And so, yes, as Chris was saying, could this all be done and no one know about it?
Yeah.
Of course it can. But there is a historical precedence with people's emotions and understanding all tied to it. That's where you must have a closing and or a healing and or a moving forward as a part of the playette, let's just say. It needs to happen to give consideration to psyches being whole and being able to move forward. And that's why, again, some of it we are going to see. Even though, again, we know that It doesn't have to be handled that way. And when you see something always from a bigger picture, you may not need that closing to happen a certain way. But in general, people and their psyches do. And so it has to play out actively so people can see in one form or another.
Yes, even though there's a playette going on, the lower level grunts, so to speak, don't always know it. But they believe they've played out something good, like SEAL Team 6 with Osama bin Laden. For instance, that's a prime example. They believe that they've done really good. I came to find out that the guy that was bin Laden was actually an actor within that playette. Or even an Arab friend of mine, when I worked at a pizza place, said the signs that were around him, everything were just saying gibberish. They weren't actually saying anything. He said they didn't know where bin Laden came from. They believed Hussein was legit, but bin Laden was actually just an actor within the projects later. And they're like, wait a minute, we don't know who this guy is. Yet he was being portrayed as somebody they knew exactly who it was. That's what a friend of mine working in pizza, I won't say his name, but he was in Saddam Hussein's prisons for like a decade. So he knew who was legit in the area and who really wasn't to an extent. But they knew that bin Laden wasn't. But then Al Qaeda and him just kind of came out of left field.
And I'm unsure whether Chris will have put it up yet or talk about the 100-year disclosure contract. You'll understand a lot more about what we're talking about if you listen to that lecture that we did. That's why it's mentioned here, because again, there is a way that humanity needs to be for open contact, and we spoke about it there. It will give more context. So listen to that lecture that we did at the conference, and this will help give you some better perspective.
Whatever order that you see this in, make sure you see that too.
Yeah.
So, next one, this was for Whitney Houston.
It says, Whitney, was your son, Bobby Brown Jr., also a sacrifice like yourself?
Unfortunately, Christopher, he was just the same as me. Family curse and all. My daughter, Bobby, as well, from a distance with V2K / the mouth frequency weapons, etc. That's all for now. Thank you, Chris, for looking into this, Whitney Houston. So we'll go on to this is actually this went into a different spirit. This was and I'll say the name first before even the questions asked, so it's put into context. This was the Food Network star Ann Burrell. She actually came through when my mother mentioned this. Remember what I said, talking about how the question forms after you already know about the thing, or as the things form, the question and answer form at the same time. This is one that she actually came up with. Because they were forming within the communication itself, both question and answer, yin and yang, were forming. So this is that person. So
basically the question is, did you commit suicide?
Yeah, this is how. Okay, let me see here. Now, and I have, so I can move this. It says, yeah, I'll look before I answer this. Ann Burrell, the Food Network star known for her role as co-host on Worst Cooks in America and her own show Secrets of a Restaurant Chef, passed away at the age of 55 on June 17th, 2025, according to multiple news outlets. Cause of death is currently under investigation with reports suggesting possible drug overdose. That's all I'm reading there. I want to give context. Okay, here's the answer. Yes and no, Chris. I asked your mother on a subconscious level to bring my death up in conversation. I was a bit depressed, but never enough to kill myself. Like Whitney, I was given drugs / pills. Was I mind controlled? Demonically a bit, and I was encouraged to take all of those pills. So in short, the answer is yes, as a yes and a no. It was both energetic as well as physical influences. My husband never knew, nor did I. It was my very own series of unfortunate events, as you so brilliantly put it. But I must state now, for the record, that I was happy with my life. I was ultimately a ritual sacrifice in respect to both influences, magic and otherwise, as well as being around TV and Hollywood influences, pills as well as magic. I now can move on knowing others know this truth. Thank you, Chris, from the bottom of my heart and my soul. And she sent a heart love emoji like thing and blowing kisses. Okay, channeling a TV Food Network star co-host Ann Burrell. And the feeling that was actually she was leaving was a very loving one. We'll move on to the next question.
Aside from the land grab of both the Lahaina fires and the Hollywood fires, was this also a ritual sacrifice on a more mass scale?
This is a question that I amalgamated from multiple questions pertaining to the same one. Like if there's like say about 10, like 5, 10, 12 questions that are essentially roughly the same thing, I'll amalgamate it into one. So this is my version of all of those. So yes, indeed it was, Chris. As you all have suspected, it was. Aside from the land grab, this also happened in Asheville, North Carolina, whereas they wanted to mine lithium. That is all that I will say to you at this time until more is comprehended by you about this path. Not all of the playettes around the world carry an evil. Some are for good as well. And that was from my grandfather, Bob Sainovich. Again, he's right. There are positive false flags out there that are played by different factions. He was former OSS during the times of, past World War II. He went into the Korean War as well, and he was also in the OSS. So that's what he was trying to say. And that's the precursor to the CIA. Next question.
Are well-designed, well-maintained, and safety-run fissionable reactors a problem? I have heard it both ways. In particular, does a fission reactor have any effect on other timelines, realities, or existences?
Okay, Range 4 Harry took this question, actually. Yes, they are, because they are still leaching into other dimensions. What you call 0-point energy is much better because it does not leach poison other dimensions. It expands through the multiverse, yes, draws energy, yes, but also resupplies every bit of energy that it takes. Range 4 Harry. And the disclosure in the media references Stargate Atlantis, where they were talking about 0-point energy modules, that they found one that the ancients made that was a huge one. It wasn't like a handheld one. They tried to activate it, and a version of one of the characters from another universe came through to stop them from doing it because they believed it would have made an incursion on another universe, like you see in Marvel. Like it would have dropped into subspace and then tried to use that universe as fuel. That was propaganda, bit of propaganda that was put in there, just like looking into other universes. It was kind of propaganda in Marvel, just a hair. Because the multiverse is not that fragile completely. Could decoding and encoding someone else's reality and your perception damage it somehow? Yes. I could see that happening. If you're pushing your reality onto someone else's, yeah, I could see that possibly happening if it was slightly more fragile within the infinite diversity and infinite combinations. But this, on the other hand, that was a bit of propaganda. They were trying to get people to not want free energy. So they put the little yield was a little bit of BS in there. But yes, does it have an effect on other realities? Yes, but it all balances out. That's why it's the superior medium when it comes to free energy. Now, with Thorsten one time, and he came through, one of his expressions was Tesla. Was the free energy thing also a bit of a psyop? So people kept linking to it all the time, going, "Oh my God, when are we going to get free energy?" That's like saying, "When are we going to get the med beds?" So this is something people have to consider. Quit expecting them to release it and co-create and see it as it being released. Don't expect them to do it because they never will. You have to participate in this. There's a yin and yang to this, everybody. So I just wanted to put that out there. Next one.
It says, years ago, I studied everything I could find on Henry T. Moray. According to Henry T. Moray, we live in a sea of energy, and he was able to extract this energy beginning in about 1927 and demonstrated this to many. For those of us that would like to reinvent or even modernize his invention, can you provide us with any key insights that we will need?
All right. Yes. Let's see here. This is the exact same device type seen in Stargate Atlantis. The 0-point energy module, the same one in the battery, like when you see in that show, that the characters placed within other devices, computers on Atlantis. It draws from the multiverse, but from multiple realities, not just one. and that was Range 4 Harry. It actually cycles, it does everything cleanly. And yes, could something be made to draw too much or poison like nuclear technology does? Yes. That's why that's dangerous. That's why you see ETs and extra dimensional beings, ultra dimensional beings, and extraterrestrials shutting it off constantly. That's why, because it leaches into other realities. It's poisonous. This one's clean. So we can.
This is another part of the
Yes.
question I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yes.
Okay. Historically, he also invented, among other things, what he called a valve. We call it today a diode. He shared this information with the head of Bell Labs, and they perfected this, joining two diodes together to form the first transistor in 1947 and the beginning of the semiconductor world. Henry T. Moray gets no credit for this in history. Another energy question: is there a way to tune in and extract energy from the Fitzgerald Tesla Schumann resonance?
Okay, this leached into Star Trek-y vernacular here. And this is Range 4 Harry again. Yes, this involves the same device type as aforementioned, but the process is not as fragile as the show Stargate Atlantis made it seem. Balance in all things. The device is more of a beacon and or Bussard collector from Star Trek, whereas the Bussard collectors collected everything from gases to particles to energies. That is all that I know. Range 4 Harry. Yeah, the Bussard collectors, you see that in almost every single Trek series. They're always collecting gas samples and everything. Activate the Bussard collector. That's what he's referring to. That he's saying that is a real device. That he would put Bussard collectors in quotes, saying it's not really called that, but that's what Star Trek calls it. That is actually a real device that could take it from the Schumann resonance again and cycle it, and it's clean. Some things use liquids, like with some of the free energy, like the Nazi Bellcraft used that, was it liquid 115 or whatever it was called, that one. But this is an energy cycling device to where it just continuously runs. That there is no it's a give or take, but it's a balance. So let me see here. Actually, I'm not going to show this video, but I know, but the answer's underneath it. See the questions right there.
Is B. Howard his son or maybe a younger brother by his dad?
I'm referring to Michael Jackson, by the way. So when you see questions like this, and this was his answer. B. Howard is a younger brother to my father, Joe Jackson, and Mickey Howard. The DNA tests are inconclusive because my father wanted them that way. Infidelity and all. They met on a set, and the rest, shall we say, is history. Enough said, Michael Jackson. So I'll have to find a way to put all these links in at some point for all of these videos. There's a couple little videos here soon that I'm going to show, but we're not going to show gargantuan-sized ones. And I found the link from a previous Q&A we did on the bedroom sequence for Michael Jackson about the secret rooms and everything. Again, not showing this one. This one was long, but the question involving this was this real? Were the secret rooms real? And the answer was the secret room in the photos is indeed what I spoke about. Creepy, yes. Rigged with alarms, yes. Trap doors to tunnels, unfortunately. A target to show the world, definitely yes. Bye for now, Michael Jackson. If I read that one once before, I do apologize. They did get there was a jumble of them at one point. So we can go on to the next one.
Another video?
Yeah, I am going to actually only show a screenshot from this video. It's long, but I will show what the video looks like in this specific one here. So let me see. All right. This particular one right here is the video we're talking about. You see the title right there, exposing Michael Jackson, unseen footage, millionaire bodyguard Matt Fidesz, that one there. That is the video that I am referring to. I am not playing this. You see how long it is. It's 2 hours. Please go watch it yourself. because it is too long.
So what's the question?
The question in this instance is essentially what was said. I will give it in a nutshell. I watched most of it. Said in this essentially that he didn't know a lot about some of the stuff that was going on with Michael Jackson. He didn't that there was some things he just plain didn't know about, or some things didn't happen when they did, and vice versa. That's essentially what the gist of that was. And Michael Jackson had a lot to say on this. If you want to see what Fidesz says in the video, go watch it. It says, Mike Fidesz knows something. This is why he disavowed the tunnels to Diddy's house. That's one of the things he disavowed in the video, was the tunnels to Diddy's house. All, and I mean all of those houses were and are linked. Even Bill Cosby knows this. Jamie Foxx even mentioned going to the Playboy Mansion in one of his stand-ups that you saw, but he did not and still does not approve of all of it. This is why Diddy tried to murder him. I lied. Mike Fidesz is covering for me and a lot of the others, of which I wish he would not. This is all I came to say. Thank you for this, Chris and Christine. I must go for a bit, but you will see and speak to me very soon. Bye for now. Hee hee, Michael Jackson. I can't actually use his voice. It sounds creepy when I go hee hee. So,
Another video.
yeah, this one I can play, though. This one's very short. So, I'm not going to play all of these, folks.
No, and it's really important. So I'll bring this up now. You must submit a question with your
With a
video,
video.
please, because
for a
what,
specific part or something.
right, or what is it about the video? You cannot just submit a video with a big question mark, because it will encourage others to send videos with question marks, and we're not responding to the entire video.
No.
We've said this before. We do not talk about people that are talking about things in the video necessarily, who, whatever their works that they're working on. We need to know specifically what is the question within the video that you want answered. You need to write it out. We are happy to share the link of the video so that everybody can look at it if they choose to, but we want to be able to read the question related to the video.
Yes, and this one, I know other people have seen this. I'll make sure I got screen share on. Okay.
And again, the question can't be too broad, like, is this all true? That can't be. You write a very specific question about the video.
And this is one that played this. I believe this played several years back, actually. But someone sent this one to me, and I thought it was interesting. So.
Toda la vida en la ciudad de Miami.
I don't know if anyone remembers this from several years ago.
Esto es en Bayside ahora. Nueve y 35 de la noche de hoy, 1 de enero, frente a Bayside.
There was a mall in Miami, but there was one in Mexico that popped up too around the same time.
No sabemos qué está pasando. Soy testigo de cuando se produce una
I
llamada.
believe it's towards the end of this one.
Que vienen en camino.
Okay, here we are.
So this is supposedly the aliens?
Yeah.
And the question basically is this real, I'm assuming?
Yes, and essentially, this was a. I'll stop it here. This let me go back to here. This was essentially a bit of footage that came out years ago. There were actually two of these where you saw the where all the squad cars were out and everything. That was the aftermath of that. And yeah, a guy did go missing. There was one in Miami, Florida, and there was one also in Mexico that was very similar around that time. You can't find the one from Mexico, but the answer to this was from Isaac. All right. And this is the kind of attention certain ones actually get, is what you saw there. I wanted to keep that in for context. So those aliens were not thinking that their activities would be noticed. They violated, at a minimum, over a dozen different treaties when they appeared in the mall. Granted, at first, in their defense, they thought that they were invisible to people. The cops were the ICC response to their violations. That is all. What he means is when something like that happens, when it's a legitimate one, that is the kind of overkill you see ICC and all of them and the cabal and all of them crack down on like that. That's the kind of this just overbearing response sometimes that you see to overkill it, to either make it look like something fake happened, or there was some people thought it was a mall shooting incident at the time where they felt they needed that many cops. That was the cover story at the time for one of the two, the Mexico one or the Miami one. I'm not sure which one, but the one, I believe it was the one you just saw. Where, if somebody wants to correct me on this, let me know. But the incident in question, they tried to say it was a mall shooter at the time. That's why you saw all the police. But this one had to do with aliens. Some people believe the alien story was to cover up an MK Ultra incident gone wrong. That was another psyops that was out there. You see a bunch of psyopses layering when there's some minor truth that's being covered up. The aliens was actually the real one. In this instance, sometimes the alien thing is the psyops. In this case, it was not. So this was, sometimes they will use malls, like the SSP uses malls for training exercises, so does military, and some shit happens. But in this instance, the guy that was showing the alien footage, in the future, please, usually when somebody has grainy footage and stuff like that, usually that denotes fake, but in the future, please, and some friends might have said this as well, please, for the love of God, don't do these over dramatized videos. If you're trying to get something out, say so. Just put the thing out. Usually that's a red flag when I see some over dramatized thing. But there was, I think they mixed both of them, the one from Mexico and the one from Miami. But there was an actual thing where some footage was found was from a mall in both those places. But there was some aliens spotted, and those looked like ones that were coming through dimensionally. But there's a lot of fakes out there too, and a lot of psyopses. But what Isaac said, that those specific aliens were not very bright, is what he was trying to say. That they violated a bunch of treaties. So I just wanted to add more context on top of that. Okay, next question.
Why do they say the Skinwalker Ranch was cursed by the Navajo when it is a time fracture similar to the Bermuda Triangle?
Yes, and if people want to see more on this, I won't reinvent the wheel beyond this answer. Go to the conspiracy sector episode that Aubrey and I talked about the Bermuda Triangle. But here's the answer. It is because that the natives went there believing to be a PowerPoint, used it, traded on it, then warred on it. Subsequently, then cursing each other on it. The Navajo cursed the Utes, and the Utes cursed the Navajos. Retarded, if you ask me. So that was Isaac. He said, "Oh yeah, there was some cursing back and forth. This is how ancient wars like the Lemurian and Atlantean War then fell into legends, like in the Mahabharata. That's the war you're seeing talked about in the Mahabharata. It falls into legends, War of the Gods, all this. The Ragnarok from even further back, 500,000 years ago." Fell into that. Atlantis was between, and Lemuria were between 15 and 10 and 15,000 years ago, 9,700 to 15,000 years ago. But with this, yeah, it falls into legend, and then it goes into people cursing back and forth on a bit of land that's been basically irradiated by nuclear dimensional atomic weaponry. So, anybody wants to see more on the Lemurian and Atlantean conflict, also go to dic.show as well. So, let's see. Okay. Now I'm not going to replay this particular video, but go ahead and read the question. Okay.
This is regarding the funeral?
Yes.
The what? Okay, so, when George Bush Senior died, and there was the televised funeral for George Bush Senior, there was a lot of video out showing that people were opening up, what was going to be happening, and an envelope. We're talking about the former presidents and different ones, and there was this envelope in there, and they were opening it up. Now, this was in 2018, I believe, when George Bush Senior died and that funeral occurred.
Mhm.
So at the time, again, Donald Trump was the president of the United States, and then again in 2020, he lost the election. So I got to get context.
Lost.
George, right. So again, this was at the funeral of George Herbert Walker Bush Sr. when he died, and all of the different cabal families, previous presidents or whatever, were sitting there in the first few rows. They were opening up what was going to be happening into the funeral, and boom, there's an envelope in there, and you see them opening up and seeing their either reaction, non-reaction, and different things like that. Now, I must tell you, when you look at the reactions, probably one of the most interesting ones were related to the Bush family themselves when they opened the envelopes. And so what the question is what was in the envelope that we saw all these people opening up?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and this was actually interesting what was said here. So this was by, I believe it was Isaac again. Yes. Okay. Hard to read that font. Okay. It was only this. People at the time thought that it was the letter Q for QAnon, but in fact it said who was now in ascendancy. That is when the moot of the great houses convened and the vote was cast. This was their truest election results. Get it? This is why Jeb Bush was so annoyed. Even though he is technically a Rothschild, it was the fact Donald Trump got the bid for Don of the family. See what I did there? Okay, done. Good night, Isaac. Yeah, he figured that was a good pun there. Don, mob. Yes, I know if I have to explain the joke, I understand. But the whole premise of this was, in that video, Jeb Bush was the most annoyed out of all of them. As I believe some of them thought they were going to get the ascendancy. Even within a family, there is a head chosen, like a Don. In this case, they actually chose a real Don, as in Donald. So, yeah, which I found rather ironic. But that's what he wanted to convey there. And the envelope was the results of that. A lot of the QAnoners thought it just said Q on it, associated it with the JFK Jr. whole conspiracy thing that was said. We all know that part was BS, but the real part of this was who was now in ascendancy.
And again, if you want to know what we mean by who's in the ascendancy, please go watch the disclosure, 100-year disclosure contract that we spoke about at the conference, and we explained what that is there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So look at that video on what we did at the conference to understand now context as to what this question is actually asking.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Now, let's see. Now, this one I do need to play because this answer went straight from the text of the video to the actual channel itself. It literally bled from one to the other here. So I don't have that happen very often. So this is why we ask that you print the questions out in the future, please. Okay, you see how, I'll see this, okay. I will, yep, this one, okay, 3 minutes, 45 seconds, okay.
If you're watching this, it means they got me. My dead man switch activated automatically after I missed 2 scheduled check-ins. I had it set up months ago because I knew this day was coming. I did not die by accident. I was murdered to keep their secrets buried. My name is Virginia Louise Giuffre. I was one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. I survived Little St. James, but survival came at a price. I saw too much, knew too much, and now they've silenced me. But it's too late for them. They thought killing me would bury their secrets, but this video is going to a few organizations I trust, ones that have been exposing the truth for decades. You know who you are. It's your job to continue this fight. I was 16 when they reeled me in. I worked at Mar-a-Lago, folding towels, cleaning lockers. My father kept the tennis courts immaculate. We were just working folks trying to scrape by. Trump, he was around, but he was never the threat. The real predator was Ghislaine Maxwell, prim and proper, smiling, promising to teach me massage therapy at the Pink Mansion in Palm Beach. I had no idea I was being fed into a nightmare machine. Epstein's Island was hell disguised as paradise. You've heard some names linked to him, but those are just the sacrificial pawns. The real players, the ones they've protected at all costs, are still hiding in plain sight. I'll name 2 now. The first, a former US President, Barack Obama. Publicly, he's revered. Privately, he was one of the worst. He wasn't there for the girls, he was there for the island boys. Young boys, trafficked and groomed. I saw him more times than I can count, always without his Secret Service detail, sometimes with his Hollywood friends, George Clooney and Tom Hanks. I still have nightmares about them, arrogant and drunk on power, slinking into the cabanas with kids barely out of childhood. The second, Bill Gates, the billionaire philanthropist, loved by the media, hailed as a savior. We called him the benefactor, and we used to dread seeing him naked. But he didn't come to party, he came to experiment. Genetic experiments, human experiments. I saw him inject a young girl with something they said was a genetic enhancement. She was younger than me, strapped to a table, terrified, treated like a lab rat while they muttered about seeding the future of the species. These men think they are gods, playing with life like it was theirs to own. I'm telling you now, Epstein isn't dead. They staged his death because he was too valuable. He held blackmail on some of the most powerful people on earth. Files, videos, confessions. They couldn't risk him talking, but they also couldn't risk him gone, so they hid him. Stashed him under the protection of the same elite who once paid him to supply them with flesh. And they thought killing me would stop this from coming out. They were wrong, and there is so much more to come. Hidden servers, encrypted drives, witness testimonies. It's all going to hit the light. This video is just the first detonation. The data drops are timed and automatic. They are going to people who can make a difference, and nobody can stop it now. Not even the law enforcement agencies in the US and UK, the same ones that buried the evidence I handed them, can stop this truth from getting out. If you're watching this, you are the resistance. Don't let my death be just another headline. Burn their lies to the ground. Make the world see the monsters behind the masks. And to any survivors out there, don't give up. We're in this together. They can't kill us all. Make them pay.
Okay. Now, make sure that's playing. Okay. This, I will say this, the whole thing with Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein not being dead, that we've been saying for some time now that it was faked and he was sent back to his island and it was all a play act. I've said that for quite some time now, and this just was validation as far as I'm concerned. Now, this is a channel from the same source you were just hearing from. And this is why I played this, because this goes straight into it. She said, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, actually. It's Virginia Goffrey, I believe. Here, I was murdered. I was murdered for the reasons I said. Don't worry about me. I rest easy. Thank you both for your concerns. Thank you also for reaffirming that Jeffrey Epstein is not dead. Bless you both, and thank you both very much, very, very much. The other channeler succumbed to the mouth of V2K. It was in order to convolute the truth. Now it is out. Virginia Goffrey. So what she's saying, there was another channeler that basically said that she basically was not murdered. There was another channeler, a couple of them actually, that said she was not murdered. The mouth is actually doing this to convolute some of this truth. I just want to say V2K technology and the mouth entity consciousness that you've heard us talk about. That was responsible for the mischannelings, not dumping on the other channelers. The mouth on V2K volume is turned up quite high right now. So not dumping on any of you, so I don't want hate mail from that. But with this, she was basically saying basically saying what we've been pretty much saying the whole time with this. So I will actually move on to the next one. And all this was a video I'm not going to play in this instance. It was about the two suns. You've heard the whole Nibiru. Oh, this is Nibiru, the destroyer, and our sun. You've heard that whole thing with the two suns. We even saw this years back when we were driving, when we saw two sunsets. I wish I could find that video. That video of ours vanished. I'll post it if I ever locate it in my archive if there's a duplicate somewhere, but that one vanished. It's not Nibiru. There is no Nibiru coming around causing the problems. This is actually some energy of the Bifrost reawakening in the solar system. It's some of the tech reawakening from the cores of the planets, essentially. And the energy signature of that remelding is what that part of it is. Not Nibiru coming around causing havoc, like what Sitchin said. If people want us to go over Sitchin and GIC, let us know. We won't rip them apart, but we will say some of the stuff we know. Just saying ahead of time. The channeling was from Isaac, and it's very short. It is not Nibiru, the destroyer, never was. Isaac, meaning it's essentially our normal yellow sun, Helios, and essentially his daughter, quote unquote, the brown dwarf. And there's the double solar system, like you hear in the Nibiru mythology, but there's another sun over there. Now, in Nibiru, I came to find out the word means passage. Passage would mean portal, would mean pathway, would mean Bifrost. That doesn't mean that there isn't a duplicate Earth from another universe that was called Nibiru, but the word Nibiru from ancient Sumerian means passage or gateway. So if you want to look into to that description, it doesn't mean that the Nibiru mythology isn't real. No, of course it's from a parallel universe. That's where the Orions come from. The Dark Orions come from. But the word itself means Nibiru, like somebody was saying passage or through or thoroughfare or somewhere going through, like portal. That's what somebody was saying. So, and there is one more under here.
You've already said it twice.
Oh, and yeah, I said, yes, the solar system has two suns, a brown dwarf and your yellow sun. Okay. I did not see that. It's that damn font. Okay. Okay. Next one.
I don't know who he is in this. Do you
Michael
know?
Jackson.
Okay. Michael Jackson never sent this song before. Blood, is it significant?
This is basically Michael Jackson's song "Blood on the Dance Floor." Look it up, and there's a lot of Cabal symbolism in there. And if people want to go listen to the song, go right ahead. Let's see. This signifies that Susie's got your number, meaning sometimes strippers can be handlers of sorts for a person and or neighborhood. A handler for a single person, a watcher for a neighborhood. You can thank both Hollywood, nice name for it, and the three-lettered agencies for that. And he was very angry about that. And that was Michael Jackson. If you people want to go see Blood on the Dance Floor, look it up on YouTube. It comes up immediately. So next one.
I don't know any reference.
Okay, it just says finally a happy story. This was actually an interview with Emmanuel Lewis, and this one I will have to post a link for because This one, actually, I'll just show the screenshot from it and I'll be done with that. Because of the fact that I will just show people what the video looks like. I'm not playing it.
No, we're not gonna do that.
No, it is too long for one, and two, people can go watch. Okay, I'm just going to show people the titles so they can look it up for themselves here. So, all right, and this is the title of the video, Living with Michael Jackson. Emmanuel Lewis shares his untold story, the detail. So that's the video that I'm referring to. And I thought that was interesting that there was a happy story along with this. And this is his responses. It looks like there's two of them here. I forgot about these two. Okay. This, yes, this was in a bit of a happier time. No nefarious anythings, just us, good times and good memories. The times to truly focus on. Celebrate Michael Jackson. And I don't know how to do the hee ow thing he does, so I'm not going to even attempt it. So the next next part of this this answer was another answer included here. The year or more that I spent with my dear friend Emmanuel Lewis is one of my fondest and dearest memories. He took care of me when I got hurt. I will never forget it. I love you, Emmanuel, and always will. Make sure he gets this, Chris, at some point. Bye for now, Michael Jackson. Yeah, I'll forward it on when I can. But this by X probably. But this that's when he got hurt at the PepsiCo burning, is what that was talking about when he got hurt that time. So when his hair got set on fire that time. So
Then the next question asks Michael, did he go and sit in movie theaters and watch movies with people from time to time?
yeah, and some of the videos I saw out there, I amalgamated them into this as well, where he did say he did. So I will where people thought they knew he was there. So. Yes, Chris, I still do. It brings me a lot of hope and peace, even if people cannot see me. Some people do and pass it off to nothing but either hallucinations or just seeing shit. But then there are some that never see nor feel my presence in the theaters, and that is okay. I'm cool with it at all. Michael Jackson. He'll sit in on movies with people. So if people spot him from time to time, you're not seeing things. He is actually doing this. And do spirits actually do things like this, even when, from the other side? Yeah, of course they do. They'll sit with people, they'll enjoy things because there's some things that are lost here, certain sensations, like you have sex, or you have food, or you have a movie, enjoying a movie. There was even a Fantasy Island episode where a ghost requested to possess somebody because he wanted to taste food again. You know, I've heard that story a bajillion times. From Ghost Spirit, all of it. So, okay, here is the next question.
This was about Whitney Houston, and the question has to deal with basically, did she have an affair with Michael's brother Jermaine while he was married?
Okay, let's see. And this was Whitney Houston. Yes, he did, but he too, like Michael, at times was severely programmed. He was programmed to be a temporary handler. Michael eventually knew. And it was Whitney that said this, and then there was Michael Jackson that completed this thought. So, yes, she is correct. Chris Jermaine was, like me and the rest of the family, groomed to do the ill deeds. I'm truly sorry, Whitney. I am. And then they started having a conversation with one another. It is all right, Michael. The past now can rest. This information needs to find a home, both online and offline book form. The masses will know. Goodbye for now. I will channel again very soon. Whitney Houston. And I said, thank you very much. Thank you both very, very much. And they were waving, blowing kisses, and they left. So I thought that was interesting. That was a conversation that one was interacting with me, and then the other one appeared and they interacted with each other. That's so it had to be said as both. So we can actually, let's see. Okay. We can go on to this one.
Again, is this for Michael Jackson?
Yes.
Okay. So to Michael Jackson, when you said this is it, was this a foretelling of your passing or just the end of your career? I get the I get the disguises, but why not start with the more elaborate one?
This is all from that video. These were questions that were generated by as I'm watching the video. These were also inquired by the same question source as well. So these are again amalgams of a lot of them.
About that blood video?
Not the blood video, but the one with Emmanuel Lewis.
Okay, Manuel Lewis,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's that same one. Nice. Laugh my ass off. I will start with that part, the masks. I thought worked, didn't laugh my ass off, but the more elaborate disguises did. I thought that I was brilliant when I wasn't, laugh my ass off. Now for the other part, was it my oversoul telling the world of my passing? Yes, I can honestly say that. That is true. All things everywhere all at once are connected. That said, my human self never knew, but I do get it. Thank you once again, Chris B. Seeing you around, Michael Jackson. And I find this interesting because there was a case that popped up in Nebraska some years back, and I'll be brief on this. There was a famous football player that passed away by the name of Brooke Berringer, that he was heading towards Memorial Stadium to receive an award. Because he was actually, I believe, retiring from football at that time, and he was going to receive an award. Well, the plane that he was in crashed on the runway, and he died. The award that was being given was him as a child holding a football, watching all the other players play, and he was standing at a distance. My mother and I saw that as actually more prophetic. He was actually watching from spirit, meaning spirit had pre-planned that particular incident. This is also the same thing, is the kind of thing is that he was stating. So I will actually go on to the next one. Okay. Yeah, this actually, let me remove that out of the way. So there we go.
This person says, I found out that the COVID vaccine is changing the sex orientation of people as well. What do you make of this? It remains dormant or is instantaneous?
Okay, this is the part of the answer right here. Let's see. I said on American Dad once, where Stan injected a woman and turned her gay. I feel this was the pre-COVID disclosure. I will say this was a brief scene where Stan's trying to get somebody to befriend him that lives next door to him. And he's getting sick of the guy sucking up to his wife all the time. So one day this guy's wife is leaving him with another woman. He's like, "What's going on?" And she goes, "Oh, I've always, always been gay. You can't turn gay." I can't remember the guy's name. And you see Stan kicking a syringe under a table or a chair. That's essentially was like the COVID vaccines changing people's personalities, and have I found out that people have been questioning more of their sexual orientation because of this same technology, from mind control, V2K, the mouth, and vaccines and injectables. Yes. I never thought I would say those words in my life, but yes. And let's see this. Okay, I can't read the rest of that, but I will read Freddie Mercury's response. He was quite vocal about this. So he was, as people know, he was a big advocate for the LGBTQ community. But with this, he is seeing all of it from his perspective, his other perspective here. Give me a moment. He's incredibly long-winded when he comes through, so rightfully so. Okay. Yes, Isaac, I'm well aware he has a mouth. Get it? Mouth? Yeah, shut up. Okay, let's see. All right. Freddie Mercury here. Everyone, this shit is out of control. Real gays will take it up the ass, while the fake mind-controlled ones will never know their true selves. People will lash out at real gays, even though they are being mind-controlled the very same as straight people. I guess nowadays one can be turned gay. Your CIA did disclose this on your American Dad show, as well as multiple others that Chris here has never seen before. They always or almost always say that they are what they are doing ahead of time. They can get away with a few mulligans. I shudder at the fact that this is happening, and he was angry and giving them the middle finger. They can change your mindset on any subject, and you would never know. From compromising, blurring the lines of morals and ethics, to changing one's ideas about one's true core sexual gender identity. It sickens me to the core. One must always ask oneself, who am I really? Find yourself quickly, become that, and never waver from it. Okay, Chris, rant over, darling. Freddie Mercury. So he was basically saying that they were trying to get people to question when they were not ever that, is what he was trying to say. They were using this mind control and testing it out on this area. This is where you get the they them thing from, as what we were saying before. That and body transfer technology, and you have past lives, and you have dimensional. As we've said before, it was the Incan and little diddling around that cause non-binary and intersex. But you have also dimensional and past lives blurring the lines, and you have mind control most definitely blurring the lines. So if you want to see more on those subjects, go to gic.show. We mentioned the ancient galactic history, origins of some of these things. So also, there is another bit of besides American Dad, there was a Futurama disclosure where you had Bender changing his gender. I believe it was called Gender Bender, where he wanted to get into basically female robot sports. So he turned himself into a female robot. And they didn't know how to change him back. Even Professor Farnsworth said, the robot sexes are kind of dubious and blurred to begin with, but he won't know what he is after this if we don't change him back. They were doing that. And that was, I believe, roughly sometime in the mid-2000s that came on. So if somebody knows the actual year on that, let me know. Okay, this was another part to this question. Oh, no, this was not part of the question, but this is something I have to actually put up on the screen. So I forgot about this one. So I don't know how I could have forgotten about this one. You see this meme that's coming up here? I don't think this person cares if this was right off Facebook. So yeah, Merryman sends 76,000 to look like the perfect woman, and then Miles Johnston actually answered this one. Horrific mind control for a person who had this done to themselves. The surgeon should be arrested. And this person said, it's amazing that this was allowed to be done to people. Shocking even. This is the mind control we're talking about. Miles was right on the money. And this was, okay, more from Freddie Mercury. I will read this part. So, okay. Yeah, Freddie Mercury said this. I never thought that I would see a mouth used for such evil. Usually, well, laugh my ass off, Freddie Mercury. So, and that was the end of that subject. So we can go on to the next one.
Is methylene blue safe?
Okay, and this was range 4 Harry that said, no, it permeates the organs, the brain included, and dumbs of the mind to the point of not being able to critically think properly. Yes,
Methyloglobinemia
causes this as well, but its treatment is far worse. Nanos, heavy metals, and ghouls, oh my. Range 4 Harry. And then I believe Isaac added a response too. What Harry did not add to this was that it begins an unconscious decoupling of sorts with your true self and replacing it slowly with another more compliant personality. This leaves you very open to not only suggestion, but to another consciousness taking you over and or possessing you. We just did a recording earlier in the day about alters as well, about this same subject. It happens to slow that one show that one does not notice. It happens so slow, excuse me, that one does not notice until it is far too late to quickly undo it. He didn't say it was impossible to undo it. He said it couldn't be done quickly. Your COVID-19 and or COVID vaccine was and or is all about that. That is all, Isaac. And there are two references, I will say here, are a couple of them. Star Trek Voyager, the Borg Queen says when she's trying to infect the human population with a virus, saying, I'll assimilate them slowly by the time they know what's going on. It's too late. The next one, Picard Season 3, with the young people being influenced by the AI Borg Queen on Jupiter, saying the young people are being heavily influenced right now from these sources. And there was this video that you cannot find anymore that Jerry Ryan posted a while back making fun of it, but it was about this reporter, interviewing this weird guy in a sequin like coat and cowboy hat, basically saying it's the vaccines are called Borg Genesis, and they're not the same people anymore. Of course, they have to find the biggest retarded looking person to actually give the response in this, but that's also a stage making the true answer look dumb. That's essentially what that was in the end. The people always say, why are they finding the biggest retard to do this? Because they created the retard to do it for a staging, is what it was. Sometimes they aren't, most of the time they are. I wanted to actually give the definition for methylene blue as well. Methylene blue is a medication used in the management and treatment of methemoglobinemia. I cannot pronounce that word.
Methemoglobinemia.
Yes, a condition in which hemoglobin decreases its availability to carry oxygen to the brain. So, next question. This was more about the comedian Steve Bridges. Stephen Lynn Bridges, born May 22nd, 1963, died March 3rd, 2012, was an American comedian who is known for his impressions of politicians, television characters, and broadcasting, including Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Barney Fife, Homer Simpson, Tom Brokaw, Paul Harvey, and Rush Limbaugh. You can look him up on Wikipedia. But the whole thing was death. On March 3rd, 2012, Bridges was found dead by his maid in his Los Angeles home after he failed to return a call the day before. According to his agent, Bridges had just returned from performing in Hong Kong and went to bed complaining that he felt super jet lagged. His death was ruled an accident with the probable cause upper airway anaphylaxis from a severe allergic reaction. And the question,
Who killed him and why?
all right. This actually did come from the guy himself when he came through. So, okay. When coming home from Hong Kong, I felt off, like I had been poisoned, but kept it to myself. When I got home, as the above states accurately, I might add, I felt super jet lagged. What I saw in Hong Kong were gatherings associated with how the two governments, the US and China, okay.
Just say they were working behind the
They were
scenes.
working behind the scenes. Excuse me, I am sorry, folks. We're working behind the scenes to put out the next set of narratives leading up to what occurred in 2012 or 2020, excuse me, and beyond. At the time, I did not know of what I was truly looking at and hearing, but they did. And he got angry about that. When I got home, I just could not stay awake, even though I tried to. Nothing worked. I fully expected to wake up again in my body, but much to my surprise, I found myself standing outside of a body that I just did not recognize as my own. You hear that story a lot from people leaving their body and from surgical errors and medical stuff and everything. I was disoriented, pale white as a ghost, pun intended, and was dead as a doornail. I moved on as of today, thanks to you and your client friend. Thank you for seeing the truth of all along with me on my journey forward. Goodbye now, Chris. May you be blessed in whatever you choose to do with your life. Next, an actor, comedian, Steve Bridges. And okay, let's see here. Okay. This was actually interesting. I had this dream, quote unquote, a couple of years ago, where this, and I will annotate this a little bit, where this one young person was trying to get into was being hired to look into this facility, this big, almost like castle-like structure. And he was I believe, a Chinese American, and he was told to look into this place where I saw a bunch of Chinese servants in places. I saw some narrative, some things going on in the background that had to do with a military op and all this other stuff. But what this guy discovered down on a further level was that the totality of narrative of the Chinese were responsible for this, meaning like COVID and all these other things. Oh, Chinese are the demons, essentially, where it was actually a written narrative. When he reported this to his handler murdered him. And that was the ghost/spirit that actually came to me that had me report this at the time. At first, I thought it was BS, and I got to thinking about it. Okay, you're seeing past it, just like in my SSP history when I was interfacing with what I thought was an alien insectoid. It was actually another human that had transferred into that body. Somebody named Ludwig, I came to find out. Then I said, "Oh, is this you?" "Oh, you get to go to your superior." What they did is they wiped my memory, and I was doing menial tasks for the rest of my that tour at that time. And I remember that now, but I didn't then. So if you start to see past a narrative, if your skills are as such that you see past a written narrative, they will, I don't believe they kill you, so to speak, but they will harass and target. There's also that famous Art Bell broadcast from years ago where that guy was panicking. This was back in 97 when my mother and I heard this during the October snowstorm of 97 on the little transistor radio. When this guy was panicky and called into Art Bell, they've tried in recent years another way that they'll discredit. They tried in recent years, of course, post Art Bell's death, to actually say this was faked, or we can actually prove this. We can actually say, okay, this was the rest of the call where this was staged, et cetera, et cetera. They've made that up with AI. The original broadcast that the panicky guy called into Art Bell, that was legit, and it was a case just like that with somebody that saw past the narrative. And was there stuff with Art Bell that was probably narrative in there too? Probably. Maybe it's worth asking him. He passed away at some point a while back, so maybe at some point it's worth asking him. We'll see what happens at some point here. So next question.
What is the time traveler's ratio?
This is one we learned, and then again, this is an amalgam of questions that were about time travel. I put the time traveler's ratio in here. This is one we learned when we went up to Boston, Salem, and Gettysburg and all this, and then we saw the Gardner graves up and down the East Coast. The Gardner family is the time travel family. I came to find out that the time traveler's ratio is 50, 30, 20. And this means in time travel cases, that is 50% murders, 30% future diseases, 20% natural causes. And this is more associated with Montauk, mind you. But this is something that we learned, meaning they murdered 50% of the time, 30% of the time it was diseases they brought to those timelines, 20% natural causes, and played out the same way it was meant to. So this is why you have basically a clusterfuck of timelines. So, and paradoxical timelines. So this we believe was Isaac. Okay. Hey, this is accurate, but there is one more aspect that you have not considered, and that is the law of temporal fluctuation. This means that since timelines fluctuate so rapidly, that this ratio often created branch timelines / realities as well as destiny paradoxes, whereas oneself or an alternate variation within another timeline is condemned to suffer as a contrary to yourself. You will feel this as a constant creepy feeling, thoughts of evil deeds, or just plain sadness / depression. But another aspect of destiny paradox is this. One is locked into a timeline in which a particular chain of events is to play out no matter what, orbiting like a moon until time heals itself properly. Get it? There's a proper reference for this. Doctor Who, Lake Silencio, Doctor Who incident. Essentially about a destiny paradox. Look that one up. Matt Smith era. Loki with the time temporal loops put in place. Avengers Endgame with the way the timelines had to play out, where Doctor Strange viewed. Basically, he said to Tony Stark, "If I tell you, it won't happen." That scene. Everything Everywhere All at Once, where all the timelines were audited, and she still had to go through what her path was in her timeline. Pike with time crystal / wheelchair self in Star Trek Discovery. Pike alters timeline, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, where he goes to this Klingon planet. He views a crystal of a future version of himself, the version we all know in the wheelchair. Look up Star Trek lore about Christopher Pike getting injured. And the Klingon basically tells him, if you take the crystal with you, that future is certain, it's locked. And later on, he tries to prevent it. He ends up causing a whole bunch of a array of events in an alternate timeline. That's the kind of paradoxical effects that Isaac was talking about right there. Beautiful examples in those shows, especially that last one. So we can go on to the next one.
Okay. What is the true function in your physical body of the appendix, the gallbladder, and the spine?
Okay, let's see here. Thorsten here. The listed nature of all three organs is accurate, but along with the liver are all energetic filters, especially the appendix. Gut health does stem from it. That's basically probiotics and the like. But when a negative energy is detected, both the liver and appendix jump into action. Then the stomach becomes queasy because of the concentration of said negative energies. A Geiger counter, if you will, for evil, resulting at the time in ghost poop. See also Isaac's favorite subject. Hee hee, laugh out loud. Can't take him anywhere, ha ha. Laugh out loud, enough said, Thorsten. So,
And I said spine, but I'm thinking it meant spleen.
spleen, yes.
Okay, they spelled it wrong.
And in your opinion, as a medical professional, what are the appendix, gallbladder, and spleen?
What are there?
Yeah, in a medical way.
Well,
Yeah,
they filter.
yes, they're all.
Well, the gallbladder,
I believe that's
it-
bile for the
It
liver,
is,
yeah.
it is, it's like the gallbladder is a holding sac, the liver will pre-make up bile, put it in the holding sac called the gallbladder, which then will release it when it's needed.
Mhm.
So what happens is that when your gallbladder happens to be removed, your liver has to make it on demand. The appendix, again, as they're saying, is a filtering. Again, I guess if you get hit too much, you could have appendicitis, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the spleen is a housing area also for extra red blood cells and different things.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And a filter.
Yeah, I believe the internet said that as well, but it looks like I didn't put the actual thing in there.
Scroll
Okay.
there. Why does?
No, I
no,
didn't
that's
put it
a
in
different
there.
one.
Okay. Yeah, but I can always put it in the descriptor underneath.
Yeah.
So, okay. Next one.
Why does True Spirit warn us of calamities such as a hot water heat? Why does or why doesn't?
Why doesn't?
Why doesn't True Spirit warn us of calamities such as a hot water heater breaking or a house on fire?
Oh, no, excuse me. I'm sorry, folks. Why does True Spirit warn us of calamities such as hot water heater breaking or a house on fire, but does not prevent said calamities to begin with? I'm sorry, I couldn't read that right either. So this one was interesting. This one's not hard. Elena here to give a short but meaningful answer. Each person has a lane, path, and mission. That said, sometimes said calamities are part of this process. Next question, and that is true. I mean, some things, and I don't always believe all things are lesson. I'm not completely 100% in that camp, but there are some things that's like, why was it not prevented to begin with? Because there's certain things that build you towards the timeline you're supposed to be on. Other things are more overage and harassment. They fall under that category, where it's just overbearing, wash, rinse, and repeat nonsense. And sometimes the soul is in this weird trap and paradox, again, paradox loops and paradox destinies and stuff like that. Destiny paradoxes and crap like that. So, especially people that were in the time travel program, some of that orbits you like a moon. That's where Isaac got that phrase from, was from me. So, we can go on to the next one here.
Okay. There was an incident in Chris's folks' home in Arizona where dried dog food mysteriously was found everywhere in the weirdest places. So the question is, who and or what stashed dried dog food all around the Prescott house? And it would be inside chairs, inside reclining.
In the back sides of
like
them and everything, yeah.
places, again,
That an animal would put things
that maybe
in.
something would put it in, but we would never see or know about.
Yeah, Sammy didn't do it, and Winston before him never did anything like that either. Even Keeper, our Schnauzer, would have never done anything like that. Yeah, so, and Winston, the Schnauzer, never did, and Sammy didn't go behind there. So, and so and I do want to say, they put a camera, a trail camera, they set it on the kitchen counter to record. The activity stopped. But even here, we were still finding stuff stashed in the furniture when it was moved. It dumped out. So this is a simple one. This was an animal spirit, lower rung variety, but not bad. This little guy just wanted friends and loved your family. This was a variety of skunk, I do believe. So basically saying that this was basically an animal like a skunk. And skunks and badgers and pack rats do things like this. First, we thought it was maybe a pack rat elemental type, but no, she's saying it was a skunk. but pack rats also do this sort of thing with shiny objects. But skunks and some of the other variety of like squirrels will do things like this too, but they bury things separately. But we had several squirrels die on that property because there were puckwudgies that were killing a few of them. That was really annoying. Also in Granville, we had a puckwudgie pour a squirrel into the middle of the wall, and I'd use amber, frankincense, and myrrh to cleanse the death energy, trying to draw in ghouls and such. Had a couple things here with some couple dead animals here that got poisoned by some neighbors too. But these were all influences from the negative. But in that instance, I believe this was more of a grateful animal spirit that was coming in and just wanted to be around us. That was because we were sending love on to them from having all those incidences take place. So this next little video I will show is angelic figure in the clouds spotted in the Philippines. So I will.
Basically, the question is, I'm sure, what do we think this is?
Yeah, that's essentially what is being implied by any of the videos being shown, and I'm just going to do this here. Actually, I don't need to play the whole thing. I'll just freeze frame of this and show this figure right here. So I will end the screen share. And so I will go back here. And this is the answer that Vesa gave. Okay. What this is your Project Bluebeam. This is also why these appear in predominantly Catholic Christian-run areas of the world. There was a comment on that video that said this only happens in Christian areas, in Catholic areas. All world religions are being systematically whittled down to one religion, that being Christianity. This is because the New Age, New World religion failed, and that the NWO is trying very hard to revert everything back to an earlier period with no progressive updates. Sound familiar? Bessa. This means, making the Vatican great again, an American Pope. This was mentioned on gic.show if you want to go into that material. But one thing I will hint at is essentially in a nutshell, Pharaoh Akhenaten tried to get everybody to worship the Atmosphere, the one god. They killed him off, returned it to polytheism. Also, the Library of Alexandria was burned by Julius Caesar. He took the records back to Rome, made it so nobody else could have the records, and that also eventually became the Vatican Library, by which then the Galactic Federation has a branch of one of their libraries on Earth as the sector, the library. I believe that their majority of this material was talked about on GIC. So we'll go into, let's see. All right, I'm going to look at the screenshot of this real fast here. I did not bookmark this, so all right.
In other news developing tonight, a boating tragedy during a sudden.
Okay, this one, for context, I do need to play that. I just remembered this one. So these were sent over a span of time, so I don't always remember them. So
Thunderstorm in South Lake Tahoe cost the lives of 6 people. 2 others remain missing tonight after a 27-foot-long vessel capsized yesterday afternoon. One man visiting the area captured video of the violent change in the weather.
boats are sinking.
These waves on a lake, not the ocean. The man known as rapper Bugby says everything happened so quickly. 1 minute it was sunny, the next boats were washing ashore and it was snowing sideways. He did not witness the deadly incident, but he and other beachgoers may have helped to prevent even more loss of life. Winds were topping 30 miles an hour with 6 to 8 foot swells.
A pontoon boat had came up, and you could tell like there was no life vest on any of the people on the boat. I don't know what they were thinking, but they didn't know how to operate. It was their first time actually ever driving the boat, and they kind of they came up to the beach sideways, and then we had to go. I just ran out there and started trying to help get people off. You could tell that they were all kind of terrified, and then the storm just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and was like a total like 7, 8 boats got all piled up on the beach. It was crazy. Never seen anything like it.
We also have video of a U.S. Coast Guard plane searching the waters this morning for those 2 missing boaters. They have since suspended their search. Only 2 people out of 10 on board the overturned boat were rescued.
Okay. Let me wait till this is done so I can. Okay, there we go. All right. Go to the answer. All right. And it says, do they use submarines under this lake? The question was slightly different than what the content was. But this, let's see. This was by Isaac. Yes, they do. They are guarding a small facility under this lake. There was also weather control used here to kill these people and capsize boats. The missing people were abducted too, and that was Isaac was sad about that. That was Isaac. Yeah. Also, there's something similar that happened in the Great Lakes a while back with the whole Flint, Michigan water thing that took place, where they poisoned the Flint River there, or the Michigan River. But in Lake Huron, the water originally came from there. There was essentially a base under there that had just been activated, and they needed the water from there to power their reactors and everything. Their heavy water reactors. So this underneath the lake there. So they wanted people to stay away from there and be distracted by the whole Flint calamity that took place then. Even Obama showed up and arrogantly did a sip of the water and everything there. This was just to get people focused on the politicians and the puppets and not what was going on in Lake Huron. They even tried to. Somebody made a political statement in the show Designated Survivor when they had Kiefer Sutherland arrest the governor of Michigan, and that was a statement against the governor of Michigan during the time of that crisis. So this is along similar lines, but with weather control and abduction, from what I was able to figure out. So this is okay. Next.
Why can't true spirit prevent ghosts from haunting and or entering a home?
Okay, simple. Though spirit is all around us, it sometimes takes people on ground. Sometimes takes people on ground level, or it takes sometimes people on ground level to be the medium. In short, it's about frequencies, vibrations, and tones. Get it? Done. Meaning, what he's saying is, it takes. You have Oversoul, which is like an electrical facility or plant. Then you have in between. Sometimes there's another avatar in between, as that's like essentially like a substation. Sometimes there's not. Then you have us, which would be like the house, essentially where the current goes to. This is how it gets dumbed down. What they're saying, it sometimes takes somebody on this frequency to locate ghosts that are also along this frequency range, in this range, to help them across. Back to that. Even though essentially Oversoul is everything everywhere all at once, there's still a cycle of job that goes with this and sending them back. Now, it can be a royal pain in the butt a lot of times. I'm not saying constantly invite the fact that you're always going to assist them in your home, because or your house is going to get marked and you're going to be very upset. You're going to have a lot of ghosts all the time draining your energy. You don't want that. That's what he was trying to say with this. So this is another Michael Jackson question.
Okay. It's about
We don't have to play the video with this.
No, we're not. It's about the child Blanket, that's known as Blanket. Who is Blanket's mother and true father, basically.
And in the video, Michael Jackson wouldn't reveal that. He made a deal with Blanket's mother, but the thing of it is, he couldn't have children here. So this was actually very interesting, an interesting answer by him. I still will not say who Blanket's mother is, even if I was not his genetic father. Chris, his genetic father is also still alive, but wants nothing to do with him. He was very angry about that. This is all, and that was from Michael Jackson. So yeah, some of these things they still won't reveal, even from spirit, which I find interesting. So especially if some people are still alive here. My grandfather has said that a lot to me. It's like said, "You're in spirit. Why can't you reveal some of this this government information?" And he says, "Yeah, I might be in spirit, but you're not." That's usually the answer I get from him. So we can go on to the next question.
I don't know when this occurred, this next question, so you need to give that context.
Okay.
But let me just read it first. Was the man that killed 4 innocent people and claimed that he was being mind controlled by them an incident
Oh.
of dark ETs actually mind controlling him? The mouth, Agent Smith programming, or other?
Yeah, this was an incident I briefly saw on Facebook. I don't have complete context for it. It was just an article I saw on Facebook. I probably should have linked it to this. Basically, there were 4 innocent people that were killed by somebody that said by somebody who said those people were mind controlling me. Could the mouth have been bouncing that through them? Absolutely. Could aliens could have been bouncing that signal through them and getting somebody to kill them? Yes. Like basically the old the devil made me do it axiom, pretty much. That's essentially where that comes from. But there's also an Isaac quote here, or Isaac channel. What if I said that this was an incident that was all of the above? I mix a collage, as it were, a collage, as it were. That is all I got, except the fact that the all of the above answer happens of to a lot of people. Done. So what he's saying is the all of the above. All of what was said is what is actually the Agent Smith programming, dropping the people, V2K, mouth, all of it. Telepathy, the whole bit. That is what he was trying to say. So I do believe, oh, there is, let's see. Okay, I will only show the screenshot from this. I'm not going to play this whole thing. Go and look at it. I was actually very interested in this video. So I know we normally don't look at a whole lot, but this one here, where it's by Cody ITC, Freddie Mercury Spirit Box, I Live On Through You, Queen Rock Band. This one was interesting of how I would like to know where he got this level of ghost box from. He does say sometimes, he disclaimers it by saying he doesn't know if this is the actual one or not. He bases it on feeling and intuition, like what I would do. So I find this interesting. I'm not going to play it. I looked at this ahead of time. Actually, it's quite interesting. The Prince one was interesting, and the Michael Jackson one was interesting. So then go ahead and go look at that video sometime when you're on his channel. The energy vibes actually vary from video to video, but and I do want to point out how big of emojis Freddie Mercury decided he was going to put these in the damn document. When I copied and pasted them, he did this. The answer here was I just wanted to make sure you knew the emoji level that he went, the level he went to do this. So greetings all. Freddie Mercury here to give you an update on what is going on in spirit and beyond. I do live on in my music, but I also work with more galactic concerns. I live on in a channel. I live on in an avatar. I speak to you now as an oversoul of knowledge, but there is also one that is within your timelines that is also of me. I'm walking around in Europe, taking it in. And that's when he put those 3 gigantic emojis in there. But this is all for now. Love to you all, channeling of musician Freddie Mercury. That, what he meant by that was he has a galactic avatar out there, is what he's trying to say. I did not want to give away too much more. Just know when he was telling us that information years ago about the princes of the universe, I think everybody remembers that. That's what he was referring to as more of a Pleiadian, Plagiaran avatar, essentially is what he was referring to. At some point, we'll have to get more information from him on that whenever he channels next. But
we don't normally think the princes of the universe are great people.
No. When he was those were evil. He was warning about that.
Okay.
At the time, like in the song that he did, "Princes of the Universe" for Highlander.
Okay.
He essentially was saying, "War with the darkest powers." That's who he was referring to.
I wanted us to give some perspective on that.
Go listen to "Princes of the Universe," the song he did for Highlander. That basically says all what you need to know about the galactic battles and skirmishes and wars that have been going on for centuries. So that's what, and I got this major validation to actually that alone. So now, at the end of this particular Q&A, there are several celebrities that actually came in contact with me in the past couple weeks. I want to know, before I even mention a name, who it is that wanted to actually speak this evening.
Well, besides maybe them saying something, I'm just going to say that, so they can make their decision if they haven't already read my mind, that this wasn't going to be a really long ending, because I did want to focus back on the ascendancy question that came up first in the beginning.
Mhm.
I really only wanted to ask a question to further that conversation with whomever's coming through.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that changes the dynamics.
Oh, that changes the dynamics. And let me look at, there was a, oop, no, don't want that to happen. Okay, there was, let me do this real quick here. Move that out of the way. I'm going to see if this is who is actually coming through. I want to check these. Oh, no. Okay. I'm going to see. It was originally. I thought Heath Ledger was going to be the one coming through.
Because I know you kept saying you were looking at celebrities, and I'm like, I don't know that it's going to be a celebrity coming.
Yeah, I don't think it actually is this time. And man, am I getting hit in the chest right now? Okay, Isaac, I'm guessing it's going to be you again. I'm sorry to Heath if you were going to come through this time. Not this time. He'll pick a different one. Okay. I moved him on when I spotted him. He was still a ghost, and he gave some affirmations and blessings for a different show. Next one we film, I'm going to see if I can reach him for that one. But unless you want to do it now, I don't know. It's Isaac. It's you again. Okay. So Isaac, can you help clear some of this up? Man, there is this chest weight like you wouldn't believe. I'm getting it in the eyes too. So man, it's when we started mentioning some of the celebrity stuff, man. They really hit with that. So if you hear me stammering a little bit through the whole thing, sometimes I can't read the font, but in this instance, they were hitting the side of my head with that. So Isaac, if you could help me clear that before we do the channel. Wow, that is potent.
I think it's because of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So Isaac, is it you or is it someone else? Okay, yeah, you'll be the one to do it. Okay, give me a moment. He comes in the most clearly out of all of them. This is why people thought he was like my quote unquote main guide, but but he's the one that comes through the loudest and clearest. So there is no such thing as a main guide. There never really was. That was more of a contract signed with the church. If people want to be curious about that, the whole thing, there was no signed guardian angel at birth. That was more the baptism thing we talked about, whereas it's a demon signed to you by your baptism. That's why we tell people to revoke their baptism and the demon assigned to you. So I just wanted to add that in there. Okay, Isaac, let's do this because that is painful. Man, the amulet took a beating. Oh my God. Okay. All right, Isaac. Let's do this. All right, I gotta move all this out of the way here. Set my stones back up. I had a keyboard in front of me, so I didn't have my stones. So, hold what? Yeah. Okay. All right, Isaac. Your benevolent eyes. I do apologize for the pre-blowback because of think of it as more backwash because of the topic at hand. I will just let you go ahead and ask what you're going to ask.
Yeah, so first of all, just a statement, because again, we're trying to, obviously, even though we're recording it before the conference, to have context to some of these conversations, you need to see the video from the conference where we talked about the 100-year disclosure contract. It affects every aspect, basically, of your lives, okay?
Mhm.
And so you need to have that perspective to understand. So one of the things, again, to restate, that I'm going to go ahead and quickly restate from the conference, is that in the late 1950s. Again, prior to that, there were always contractual agreements between the Galactic Federation, between who was acknowledged, who could sign for the world, basically, Orion interests, introversal interests. There was a group together of what would and would not be allowed. This is after the gods went away. You didn't see them anymore. How are things going to be run on Earth? And so these kinds of things have happened since that time frame. So you need to know that. In the 1950s, again, when there really became an idea now of we're going to start having the ascendancy of the cabal families. We've got to all somehow work together. We're going to have someone rise to the top for a while, usually around for 20 years or so, going to rise as being the leader, and everyone else is going to fall in line to whatever these agreements are. We're all going to agree to work together for this, even though we argue and disagree about a ton of things. So I'm restating that very quickly to give perspective. So here we had, in that funeral time, with, I think a lot of people can understand in general, there's a lot of questionable history of the lifespan of George Herbert Walker Bush and all of his interplaying and all of so many things that were going on in the backstages of this country. He now dies. An envelope is now given to them that basically said the next ascendancy is going to, and it basically was the Rothschild family led by Donald Trump. And so again, the interesting conversation about this, and again, we're talking about families that do not agree. We're talking about the Rockefellers. We're talking about the Rothschilds. Again, all these family lineage that can be looked back up and see how do they align, and they don't necessarily agree on world affairs, how things are going to be run, how humans are going to be managed, all this infighting going on. So for whatever reason, at that funeral, it was decided to let them all know who was in charge, right? And so it's an interesting dynamic because, again, this was in 2018. 2 years later, Donald Trump lost. Then he comes back again. I find it an interesting story when we talk again about the whole playette, okay? And this is, I feel, an important part to bring up. The playette. And also in the disclosure contract, again, that was signed in the late 50s. We only have about 30 years left of this contract. There were requirements that pre-galactic civilization would be met at the end of the 100 years contract. What that means is how people are to be treated, what is going on in society, what is their spiritual outlook, what is their educational outlook, what is their understanding or whatever, has to come up to a minimum standard. And so right now, we're talking about the last 30 years of, all of these agreements basically coming together that are required to be fulfilled, even if a family doesn't want to fulfill them, even if a family wants to kill off more humans, even if whatever, these requirements must be met. And so right now we're in this transitionatory phase that's going on where things must be brought up to that level. It doesn't matter how much you kick and scream. It's going to be brought up to that level. And all of the galactic signatories, all of the cabal families, all of them or whatever, must cooperate and bring it up to that level. So
Even if they hate each other.
even if they hate each other. And so what we're trying to say is within these next 30 years, what you really have to understand is in some areas, things are going to get better. They must get better. They are required to get better. Now, one of the things that we actually try to help people understand in this process is where do we come in our will? Well, do you want the history that they're going to try to lay out before you, which will be a story, or do you want the truth of history coming out? What is your will? And again, the collective will has a seat at the table. What most people don't understand is you have been trained to have your collective will work for the cabal families and not what you want. So they've already told you a history that's a lie. They've already told you all these things so you can play along. They're already trying to precede you with like these beings Look at them. They're great guys. Look at them. They're just trying to have hybrid children so that they can, get along. Look at them. And they're already pre-planning and pre-putting out in public what they want you to co-create is our path forward. It is the truth, but that's what they want.
Mhm.
There are minimum standards in general that must be met for medical, for education, for business, for how people are living. All that must be met. So the question is the minimal what we currently know? And the answer is no. Deep Ops has way more out there than what the minimum requirement is. So where does the collective consciousness come in? What do you want to happen? Do you only want the minimum, acceptable, or do you want to go way beyond that and to enforce some of this stuff to come out? These are now the questions that people are going to be faced. We've said it over and over. The channels have said it over and over. We are on a crash course with the Galactic Federation. It is going to occur. It is a part of this contractual agreement, but what do you want it to look like? So I bring that up because I want to hear a little bit more about the Pleiad story. Because again, you have in 2018, you've got, the senior Bush who dies. You've got the announcement that probably for the next 20 years or so, guess who's in charge, right?
Mhm.
And then the question, and then you look at it, but on the Pleiad screen, he lost in 2020. Now he's back. Now I have my own personal opinion about how do you make a savior, but you crash it first with somebody, then you let the savior arise again. But I'm curious from what is your perspective on this, Isaac? What has the play been these last few years?
Oh, you mean with the note?
With the note and with Trump losing the election and then winning the election.
Some people, they don't believe in with the note. Again, the ascendancy being recognized. And some people were visibly annoyed, like Jeb Bush, because of the fact that some were not expecting it. And if they were severely pissed off. So with that said, they all obey those edicts, kind of like the table in your John Wick. Also, your ballerina character, where he came to her for help, and he had that kind of blood oath thing going on. It's essentially the same difference, where they all essentially must abide by this. Very much like the Galactic Federation has its treaties and the other planets. They have to enforce certain rules when it comes to here. As I said in a previous recording with him and Ryan as well, when things open up, the Earth will be slightly more protected from some of these things as well. So there are good aspects to joining up, but also you have to also put out there what you want from this. Now, with the doddering old retard that they had before the second Trump ascendancy, some people believe that they wanted to make something look so retarded and so stupid and so oppressive that they'd want the other thing back and there would be a police state. That's not necessarily true. That's what some people are afraid of. Now, could it go and pendulum swing over here for a little while? Yeah, absolutely. And are there things going on in the background that you do not know about with ICE incidences and stuff like that? Yeah. There are a few things that you would question, you would scratch your head and go, oh, fuck. Yes. But, probably a lot louder than that. I would hope so anyway. But with this, though, yes, the playette was go from order, chaos, order, and leave it on order for a little while, and then taper it back off to center. It had to be, there's certain things that had to be cleaned up. There's certain criminals that had to be shuffled around. There's certain land masses that have to be shuffled around in secret. You can only do things if you are doing this in the guise of order and chaos. You can accomplish a lot. Like what he said, the reason he got such a blowback from saying on the radio on GIC back then, by saying Trump and Biden are the embodiments of order, chaos, comedy, and tragedy, he couldn't have been more right. Because in a theater of puppets, what did they do the most? They had a comedic tragedy or a tragic comedy. Essentially, the tragic comedy would have been Biden. The comedic tragedy not necessarily has not been played out yet. Basically the comedic was it the tragic comedic or comedian or the comedic tragedy would be essentially Biden. The tragic comedic type thing has not, the polar opposite has not played out yet. Order, chaos, comedy, tragedy. Sorry, there is some stammering going on from targeting a bit. But what I am attempting to say is this: the reason there was so much blowback and the reason you feel this now is because of the fact that this is still going on. Aside from the 100 years disclosure narrative contract, which of course this is a part, there are many ways aspects of this can play out. It can be done sooner. It can be done on time. It could be done a variety of different ways. They had another way they wanted to go with this, where they wanted to make it more authoritarian. They wanted to make it more socialistically acceptable before. But the winds of change wanted more of an order aside in the form of not chaos. But the other one would have been socialistic chaos. So some people didn't want it. They were willing to, the factions were willing to have it go that way. When Donald Trump won the ascendancy, this changed it. They knew that it wasn't going to go the socialist way. Some of the others wanted it that way, but they have to obey the ascendancy at all costs. This is why other countries fell into line. This is why some people have compared him to the Antichrist of mythology, because a seat at every table, making peace in the Middle East, all of those things. That was made up a long time ago. That was from a previous contract, by the way. They made up the Christ, they made up the Antichrist. What did they do this time? They made up the embodiment of chaos and the embodiment of order. They went into a different area. As time passes, you will begin to see that this is true. You will begin to see that aspects of this are more true. The playette in this area is more true. Is this helping people to maybe gain business? Yes. Is this aiming more towards a united North America or North American coalition? You bet. Because this is what it's aiming towards. In the playette, they wanted to make it seem like, oh, this position is more obsolete by having a doddering old fool in there, and then going over to more order. Then you had them pointing out the follies of the other country above, Canada, and the country below, which say north and south. There is no above and below in that area, and the south in Mexico, saying there's a problem here, there's a problem here. So with that said, is there good being done as a result of this narrative? Absolutely, there's good being done. Are there children being rescued? All of this because of the increase in law enforcement budgets and all this other stuff. Yes. Now, for the darker aspect of this, are there things being done that you're not hearing about with the whole thing with the immigrants and everything? Yes. Was there a playette being played out with your LA riots with the cinder blocks that somebody found on the Paramount lot? You bet. Both sides. Somebody you knew was basically trying to cry Palpatine in this area, where all sides were planned. I could not agree more. But it's multiple factions planning out the comedy, tragedy, order, chaos, because of the fact that those riots were planned out, create the enemy by which then you have to fight it. Therefore, people are clamoring more for getting rid of, as Freddie Mercury was saying, the good gay people, and also the good people that were there a few that had citizenship revoked on the side in the background? A couple. And I'm not trying to downplay that, but it did happen. But it did not happen of being known to all aspects of ICE and all aspects of law enforcement. It was in a couple isolated areas that they figured, fuck this shit, we're just going to deport all of them because the whole family is being a pain in the ass. And the whole group is being a pain in the ass. They wanted to make it easier on themselves. It does happen from time to time. So I wanted to report that. But on the flip side, the whole thing, and then every person knows the narrative, as was said. Not every grunt knows the narrative, like with the SEAL Team 6 and all that other stuff that was mentioned before. The rioters, there were crisis actors amongst them, and there were those amongst ICE as well. Essentially creating, like your Palpatine did in Star Wars, the droid army by which the stormtroopers were needed. Now, The other aspect that is not being said, yes, I know Reagan said keep it simple, stupid in his channel, but there are a few arms that have to be talked about here. It's too simple of a job that is being spoken about, amongst your conspiratorial communities, where, okay, this is a Palpatine move, false flag that leads to empire. That's too simple in this way. That's a public narrative, and it's not 100% true. There are multiple factions vying for it, as you would see in the ascendancy. Multiple cabal factions are vying for their own aspects of the narratives. They all want the united North America because they can believe they can control it easier. But they wanted it under more of a socialist type of scenario, one that everything was made quote unquote equal and everything made quote unquote affordable, but it was been more like Stalin. No, the cabal quickly noticed that they could get more, they could go more with honey rather than vinegar. So they went with essentially, in this instance, Donald Trump, because of the fact, and he doesn't know all this, by the way, he knew enough to spread the note around. There's some things that they don't all know. It's compartmentalization, like in the military. The Rothschilds know. A couple of the high mucky-mucks know. Mr. Burns there knows a lot of it too. So that said, and that's who Mr. Burns was fashioned after. That said, the plan is still to go ahead with the United North America. This probably will not take as long as you think. I loathe to give numbers, but it won't take all the way up to the end of the 100 Years Disclosure narrative. No. And I hate to say this, but there are often on little pockets and skirmishes of real kind, not just staged. The rioters, some of them were controlled to do this, but some of them that instigated this were crisis actors. Like what you saw at some of the school shootings, you saw the same girl showing up each time. That is a narrative that was put in place, but it's also an MK Ultra thing that was put in place. What I'm trying to say is the aspects of the what it has to do with the 100 Years Disclosure narrative is they want to build to the minimum requirement to get into the Galactic Federation. With that said, he likes to equate it to the minimum of getting a credit card, applying for a credit card or an insurance policy or something like that. That's an apt analogy where if it's just far enough, they can come in and take care of the rest. And you don't completely want that. If you want to build towards a minimum requirement, you actually have to do some of these things yourself. You cannot just wait for disclosure. You have to build towards this. This is not something you want. You would not completely like that outcome because there were some rights that would kind of disappear. And I'm not saying the GF is completely authoritarian. It's just one faction of theirs that is the whole DEI type. But with that said, since we're part of it as well, archivists, that is Elena Vest and myself, and also with the NDTF and everything with them, you want deals to be struck with them. You want to have the protection of the other worlds. You want to be integrated into those agreements and treaties and contracts in a good way. But you have also probably noticed how even with the thing with the Middle East, the play out that was going on, the ousting of the ideology, all the stuff you were talking about over there, all this is being cleaned up systematically because this is part of that requirement that some of these hateful ideologies be ousted. They thought the whole DEI thing was going to go towards that, kind of like a forced inclusivity. They were listening to another faction. And also some hedge bettors are also involved in this. How can we help or how can we get our rules integrated within our hedge bet? This is also something you do not want. This is a clusterfuck, I know, but this is how it currently is.
Well, thank you. And just to clarify as well, when the Force people keep saying they would like a seat at the table, they are literally meaning a seat at the table to sign the next contractual agreements.
Yes, because those are people you want at your back because they want to be that one group. They want to be one of the good hedge better groups because of the fact, not that they aren't doing it already. They want to do that because they want peaceful coexistence. They want to communicate properly, etc. Lonulus is the same way.
And truth.
Yes.
And again, not a storyline, but actual truth, actual history, actual things, not again, this, again, erasure of history and,
You don't want that.
storyline.
Yeah, and storyline. Valiant Thor, yes. But he's extremely anal retentive down to the last decimal point. He's the Poindexter in the in the laboratory with the lab coat on and the pocket protector and the Coke bottle bottom glasses with the tape. That's pretty much him. Not that we haven't played that role from time to time, but he never left that role. You know those movies, that are set in the 50s of the NASA mathematician with the white shirt and the black pants kind of thing? That's him. Sort of. But we poke fun at him. But he does it his way because he is actually helping with that speed up process. That's why he did the yield as a way of carrying it over from mostly falsehood to mostly truth, and then over to the end of the 100 Years Disclosure narrative. Now, does he agree with this that it could be done earlier? Yes and no. He thinks that it would be flawless and seamless if it went for another 20 years or so. 25 years or so. I disagree. Other groups disagree. The forest people definitely disagree. And there has to be a compromise with all these other galactic groups as well. Some you don't want them to hedge bet you. Other ones are good. Some in the Galactic Senate are freaking obnoxious. But some of them just want their thing and that's it. Others are more out for you. The forest people definitely are. So they getting a seat at that table then would represent that part of Earth and good Earth interests. That's the kind of thing they want.
Good. So I really don't want to say too much more because I think between trying to encourage people to look at what we said at the conference and then add to it with what we're saying now, to give people the opportunity to really wrap their head around what we're trying to say and what we need to do to move forward to have our collective consciousness, to have that unity, to have our collective consciousness drive some of this demand that some of this conversation is driven in a way that is more truthful and also not accept just certain minimum requirements, especially when it comes to healthcare. Especially when it comes to, educational and God forbid, this dumbing effect needs to stop. So
Yes.
I think again, there are goals in mind why we feel a unity is very important. It's regarding the collective energies to push some of the agenda that is better for humanity forward as these talks are going on for the next round of contractual agreements that are going to happen.
Yes, you say gonna happen, but also you can have it more opened up too. Plus, you don't want the Martian Germans / New Schwabenlanders having their penis dipped in anything because like they have now. So they're one of the worst factions you got. Then you have your cabal families and such. So with that said, you want to shoot for what you just said. You want that over amongst any of these others. The Martian Germans are being kind of bypassed in channelings lately because it pisses them off. So they're actually being bypassed in words like that, just so people don't think that they've suddenly gone away. They're just being kind of Akhenatened at the moment and kind of basically backed up by people not talking about them. So it actually tends to piss them off royally because they have no sense of humor. So that's actually more some of our idea and the forest people's idea. They don't want to give them very little limelight. This is why I'm giving context to this, why they're not being mentioned as much. So something I fully agree with, making them fun of them, like he did the Hans and Franz thing, which I found extremely hilarious because they need to be made to look retarded and their ideology retarded. That's another way that you fix some of these things is laughter and raising that frequency and making these people look utter retarded. And when you get to that, even if it's making fun of their high collars, their hat, their uniforms, anything, do that. And I do want to point out there are good people living on Mars at the moment. There's ETs that come and go, and there are some that are actually starting to come around to less of an isolationist mentality. You can thank Valiant Thor for some of that, but it seems to be working. there. But you have some of the old farts there and the previous generation that are basically like the Nachtwaffen and all of those type of guys that won't go down quietly. So Valiant Thor is actually knowing that Mars, Earth, and Venus will be like the founders of like a federation type of scenario. Nobody wants the Aryan race isolationist assholes to be representing this system. So that's being switched.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, again, any last comments for this recording?
Nope, this would be it. There is, sorry about the blowback or pre-blowback, but that's what the pressure you're feeling right now is. That's what the pressure he's feeling on his chest and everything right now. So I will end this by decoupling at the moment. So goodbye, everybody. Yeah, there is like an immense pressure on the face and on the chest right now. It's the content of what's being talked about. That's why it was harder and harder to do the channel, is because of this. It's not pleasant, everybody. So just know when you're feeling that you're getting hit, but at the same time you're striking a nerve in something you're saying or doing. So I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, no. Hope everyone enjoys it.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching this Q&A episode. More to come. So thank you, everybody. And I now close this circle within true benevolence. Oh, before I do this, excuse me, I do have to read the last affirmation blessing. I almost forgot that yet again. All right. That is not it. Okay. I almost did that. Sorry, everybody. I did it before with Bruce Lee, so almost screwed up. Okay. Affirmation and blessing. To truthers all over the world, though I literally died for my craft, Big Mike looking your way, and she was angry about that. One should never have a hill worth dying for unless leveled by the importance of truth, or levied by the importance of truth. Laughter and love. Love of life eternal and faith that it exists is all that is needed when facing the truth hill to die upon. Never back down, never stop laughing. And that would be channeling a comedian and actress, Joan Rivers. So now I close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.